music station. Now on FM 96.5 and AM 580. News Talk WDBO.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tom Olsen. I'm an attorney right here in Orlando, Florida, and I have been answering legal questions on the radio right here in Orlando for 25 years, folks, and that adds up to about 1,400 radio shows and 20,000 legal questions that I've answered on the air. One thing I have never done is to take a few minutes out to express my opinion, my personal position about politics in the world. And today I didn't have a guest, and I said, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. This is not like me, folks. I have feelings and thoughts like everybody else. However, I'm typically one to keep them to myself. I do not like to debate people, have them try and change how I feel. And that's why I generally keep things to myself. At the same time, I'm always happy to hear what other people have to say, folks. And so I'm talking my thoughts, and I'm going to keep coming back to this term that's in my mind, and it is collective soul. We, as the American society, must get on the same page about some things. And the same page is that we cannot be short-sighted. We need to think 25 and 50 years down the road for our future. We have been the greatest nation on earth. It would be short-sighted and naive to think that we will always be the greatest country on earth unless we have some change. Now, I voted for President Barack Obama, and you might say, Tom, then you love him. And I say, you know what? We have not had enough change as far as I'm concerned. So he has disappointed me along those lines. I'm going to come right out and say it. When things are this bad in our country, it is a time to reinvent ourselves. It is time to break the model and rebuild it. When I go camping, I'm in charge of the fire. When the fire burns down, at some point in time, you got to totally break the fire down and start from scratch. And we need to be thinking in those terms, folks. So with that said, I've invited you to call and talk on the radio today, not to debate, because I'm genuinely interested in your thoughts. We've had some people that have called in that have been patiently waiting. And by the way, first, let me say this. You know what? I get a lot of business from this radio show. My law firm, Olsen Law Group, a lot of my clients come from WDBO, and they come there probably thinking, Tom, you're on DBO, you must be a conservative person. And so this may or may not hurt my business. I'm not sure yet. But today I'm going to join this collective soul and start getting the word out there that it is time to start thinking about the good of the whole, not just beyond our front door, our front yard, our city limits. So with that said, let's go to Roberta and Lake Mary. Roberta, you're on News Talk WDBO. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I would describe myself as a conservative both socially and economically.
All right.
I believe, yes, that our government has had a hand in where we are today with the problems, and I think it's because they've given us a feeling of entitlement. But that's not really the reason I called. I called regarding this Occupy Wall Street. I have very little problem with what's going on in Orlando. My husband works down there. He sees what they're doing. He doesn't have problems at this point. But my problem is with Occupy Wall Street and the way that they are behaving and their lack of consideration of those who go to work and who are trying to do their job. And they're making it difficult for these people. And you say live and let live, but their behavior is not allowing these people to do what they need to do.
And I think, so with that, Roberta, I fully appreciate what you're having to say. And so that here we have, in a sense, two competing interests. You know, we put them on a scale, and one is the inconvenience that they're causing to the people that work down on Wall Street, and those are, I'm sure, plenty of average, ordinary individual, hardworking individuals, just like you and like you, Roberta, versus trying to get the word out that we need a change. And so Roberta, my personal opinion is that the good of this movement outweighs the inconvenience that is being caused. That's my personal thought. Let's go to Andrew in Titusville. Andrew, you're on News Talk WDBO. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I actually just wanted to tell
Andrew, I'm sorry we've lost you. Let's go to Steve in Davenport. Steve, you're on News Talk WDBO. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Olsen, long-time listener, first-time caller, obviously. You're against opinion, so let's lay out some facts. Breithart has clearly laid out years' worth of emails in the email dump on biggovernment.com between SEIU, LCIO, and George Soros-sponsored organizations like Adbusters, who first broke this movement.
All right, Steve, I'm going to let you go because, you just talked and I have no idea what it is that you were saying. I don't disagree with you. I just don't understand. So we're going to move along. So with that said, let's go back to Rob Solomon. Rob is a lawyer in my office. He is down at the Occupy movement. By the way, folks, last night I went down to the Occupy Orlando movement for the first time. So glad that I went down there to see in person what is going on, folks, and have conversations with people down there. Smiles, genuine people willing to talk and to listen and cooperate as a society. When I talk about collective soul, there's a collective soul down there. There, in fact, is a board that says, what can you do? Like recycle, pick up cigarette butts. They are working together. They have assembly meetings down there. This is true democracy, okay? I'm joking, so the Occupy people are down there having meetings that are democracy in its most basic form, and I love it. So let's go back to Rob. Rob, are you there?
Yeah, yes. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So I'm going to put Dave Wassman on the phone. I'm low in battery, so it might be calling in the other way.
Okay.
It's somebody else's phone, but I want to give you a chance to talk to somebody who's been involved in this before we lose you.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch you over to him so you can get it right from somebody who knows what's going on, okay?
All right.
Hold on. Good afternoon, Tom. This is Dave Wassman. How are you?
Hey, Dave. I'm doing great. Dave, you are on News Talk WDBO, and there are people out there listening to you. So I know part of the Occupy movement is there's no single leader or nobody speaks for the group, but here you are on the radio with us. And so what would you like to say?
Well, obviously, we are a leaderless occupation. A lot of people always want to know what's our mission statement, what's our main focus, but because it is so all-encompassing, I guess if anything, if it was to put in a nutshell, it would be corporate influence over the government and unfair taxation. But the list can go on.
Well, I agree. And by the way, Dave, one thing I was just talking about was your assembly meetings. You guys have these maybe 5 times a week, sometime in the afternoon. Is that right?
We have 4 general assemblies per week. We have one every day on the weekdays at 7 p.m. We have one on Saturdays at 4 p.m., but we have an open forum every single day. Those usually start an hour before the General Assembly. And the General Assembly, by the way, is where we decide on, if you want to call it mission statements or our ideas or what we want to put forward into the public ether.
And I'm going to go back to the assembly meetings in just a minute, but I also want to say that there are people coming down there and holding workshops and lectures about anything and everything, as I understand it, right? I mean, what are some of the examples that the people are speaking about down there?
Well, just the other day, we had a gentleman named Bob come down and talked about all the districting for Orange County Public School System and how important it was that we were involved in the process, that we go to the meetings and understand what districting means to us individually, what districting means to the individuals that are going to the schools, the communities that are going to those schools, and how all of them benefit from that.
All right. Hey, Dave, by the way, you may not know this about me, but I love to do drum circles, by the way, right here in Orlando. So I came back at 9 o'clock last night because I thought there might be a drum circle going on. Nothing was going on. But when do you think I might find a drum circle down there?
Oh, we're not always cliche. I will say that.
All right.
We're not we're not always hippies, but we do try to do that every so often. We do try to have actually multiple things. We'll have guitars going on. We'll have we've actually had bands out here, sitars. I mean, you name it. A lot of different forms of entertainment that after all the protesting, after all the marching, you got to do something to relax.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you so much for speaking to us on the radio, and thank you for letting the listeners know a little bit about what's going on at Occupy Orlando. And by the way, they have assemblies down there where there are people that are voting, and there are signals, and I can't show you what they are over the radio, but one, if you wave your fingers and your fingers are kind of pointing down, it means that you don't agree, and if you wave your hands and your fingers are kind of pointing up, it means you do agree, and if you raise your finger up in the air, it means a point of interest, or something about the topic being discussed. So, folks, it is democracy in its most basic sense happening down there. And so we talk about the United States being a democracy, and I am so disappointed with our politicians who are not representing us. They are representing themselves and people that lobby them and people that give them money. And my feeling about people who are elected to office are that they are automatically corrupted. And there's something about the system that's creating that. And you say, Tom, how do we overcome that? How do we get rid of that? It comes back to this collective soul that me and you and the vast majority of people out there stand up and say, we're not going to take it anymore. You, the politicians, will represent us, or we're going to vote you out. You know, a couple years ago, I was thinking in terms of this, that as far as voting for a politician, here's my thought. Unless the incumbent politician, unless you can list for your own self one thing that he or she has done that you approve of, that has benefited you or the collective society, unless you can specifically state one thing that that politician has done, then you automatically vote them out. You vote for a non-incumbent politician, folks. That's the way I feel about it. Let's go back. Let's take some more questions. And next in line is going to be line 2. Okay, I'm not sure what the name is, but go ahead. Hey, Tom, you're on the air.
Oh, hey, Tom. Just wanted to say, I very often in flipping through Orlando stations, I come across this and the AM version of the station, and I typically hear what you hear, if it's Hannity or even Bortz or especially Rush Limbaugh, God help us all. I can't stand it for more than a few minutes because they're always pounding on one issue that really is just attacking everything and sort of.
Well, Tom, thank you for saying that, because here's my beef with those guys. And by the way, I've been in radio for 25 years. And so to some degree, I know that Sean Hannity is an act. Okay? And I can say that because this is that I've been to the meeting of the mouths assemblies here in Orlando, where they bring in Sean and they bring in Neil and they bring in Clark Howard, and these folks are now in a much smaller crowd. They are not on a radio station talking to millions of people, and all of a sudden I see Sean Hannity acting much more reasonable when he's in the smaller crowd. So I know that when he's on the radio, it's somewhat of an act. Now, with that, because you know what, conservative radio makes good got you. So makes good radio. But with that said, having been on the radio for 25 years, back when I started, and some people remember this, at 740, there was Clive Thomas. Clive Thomas did the most brilliant liberal talk radio here in Orlando I've ever heard. And you know what? I'd like some fair and balanced liberal talk radio here in Orlando too. Now, folks, you're saying, Tom, you must be a liberal, but I'm going to get back to it, folks. I am a live and let live person. Drugs, legalize them. I am a fiscally conservative person. I balance my own checkbook and I take care of my own money. I expect my government to do the same thing. Hey, let's go back to Rob. Rob, are you there?
Hey, how's it going? This is where Rob's line was. This is actually RJ.
Oh, hey, RJ. Yeah, I met you last night. I was down at Occupy Orlando, and you were a very well-spoken young man. And while I'm saying this, folks, you know, I like hanging out with young people. I do. And if my children were down at Occupy Orlando, I would be proud of them. So, RJ, go ahead.
Okay, well, thanks. You know, I'm 26 myself. I'm a veteran, and I'm one of the 22 arrested on the first night, and out of the 3 veterans arrested. And, you know, and I'm down here at Occupy Orlando now, and I agree with everything you're saying. You know, it's something where it's a pool of information, and kids should be out here, parents, students, teachers. Everybody's just been passing information, the cultures of information, and if anything, people should come down here and hear all the viewpoints from every aspect and make decisions on their own. That's why we have no leaders, no separate or specific organization, because we're just a cauldron of information. So we really have like 2 viewpoints by now, you know, get corporations out of politics and pass information so people can make better decisions for themselves. And
RJ, I heard you say that last night, and that is right on, folks. Everybody hears information; they have a right to make up their own mind. You know, one thing, and by the way, we will all agree that we are appreciative to the men and women who serve our country in the armed forces, and you did that for us, RJ, as I recall, right?
Yes, I was in the Marines for 4 years, from 04 to 08. Went to Iraq twice.
And one thing you said last night is that, as you're speaking to me, is that you felt you were doing more good at Occupy Orlando than you did in the service, and however that you might have served us.
Yes, it's ridiculous, because I put it to you like this. We have a direct action group. And this direct action group goes to all of these events within the city, these so-called public events that not a lot of people go to. And we go in these meetings with 30 people, and we run everything that they say and do live on the internet. We just want transparency, you know? So we run it live on the internet, and that alone, us having cameras out within the city and even school board meetings, mayor meetings, it gives us power because we let the people know the truth within the government. And if that's all that's put out there, we get to make a lot of change.
Hey, well, we appreciate that, RJ. And one thing I want to say, too, is that I am inviting you, the listeners that are listening to me right now, to go down to Occupy Orlando, have some conversations, look around if you want to. Well, first of all, look around if you want to, have some conversations if you want to. If you said, Tom, what about parking? The Orlando Chamber of Commerce has a big parking lot right next door where I parked. No problems, no issues, no concerns. So there's easy parking down there, and you can see a little bit about for yourself what's going on. Hey, folks, my name is Tom Olsen. I am getting completely out of my comfort zone, my box today, but having a lot of fun at the same time. We have Tom from Lake County, and he's got a question. We have Jeff from Orlando, T versus Occupy, and we have Matt from Melbourne. Appreciates giving his opinion, and we're going to get you on the other side of the break. You're listening to News Talk WDBO.